25th of July 1945, inside the quiet chambers of the Imperial Palace in Tokyo, Japan, Asia, Emperor Hirohito stands near a shaded window, his posture controlled, his breath measured, his thoughts heavy with a future he can no longer delay. Outside those palace walls, the city still bears the scars of firebombing, streets reduced to ash, families scattered, silence replacing the confidence that once filled the empire. In his hands rests a thin briefing folder, its pages marked with red seals, naval losses, fuel shortages, invasion estimates, each line confirming what many leaders fear but refuse to say aloud. Only weeks earlier, on 18th of June 1945, American planners finalized Operation Downfall, a massive two-stage invasion designed to strike Kyushu, Honshu, and Tokyo, with a force larger than anything seen in human history. Japanese intelligence knows this now. Fragments captured, radio intercepts decoded, whispers from neutral diplomats confirming that America is not preparing to negotiate but to land. For the first time since his ascension, Hirohito understands that Japan's fate may soon be decided not by honor, but by annihilation. In a nearby chamber, Prime Minister Suzuki Kantaro, elderly yet sharp, listens as generals argue over maps, casualty numbers, and the hope that American bloodshed will force mercy. One officer insists that millions of civilians can be mobilized, armed with bamboo spears, spirits hardened by loyalty. Beaches turned into killing grounds. Another quietly admits, between pauses and glances, that the Navy is broken, the skies are lost, and the homeland stands exposed. Across the Pacific, American forces train relentlessly, unaware of the precise words spoken in Tokyo, but certain that resistance will be savage, prolonged, and catastrophic. The Japanese leadership understands this symmetry of doom. Every American landing means Japanese death. Every Japanese defense means American sacrifice. A spiral tightening by the hour. On this day, 25 July 1945, Hirohito does not speak publicly. He does not issue commands. He simply listens, absorbing the weight of inevitability. What Japanese leaders say next, in private rooms and guarded councils, will shape the final act of the Pacific War and decide how Japan meets the end of empire. 26 July 1945. At Potsdam, Germany, Europe, a declaration is finalized, oceans away from Tokyo, yet aimed directly at its survival. The Potsdam Declaration reaches Japanese leaders through intercepted broadcasts, diplomatic channels, and uneasy translations. Its words sharp, final, and unforgiving. It demands unconditional surrender, promises destruction if refused, and offers silence on the fate of the emperor, a silence louder than artillery. In Tokyo, Japan, Asia, Foreign Minister Togo Shigenori reads the text slowly, carefully, his fingers trembling not from fear, but from calculation. He understands diplomacy, understands tone, understands that America is no longer bargaining, but announcing the closing of a door. To surrender may preserve the nation's soul. To resist may preserve its pride. And between those choices lies extinction. Inside the Supreme Council for the Direction of the War, the so-called Big Six, arguments ignite beneath low ceilings and dim lights. War Minister Anami Korechika speaks with steel in his voice, insisting that decisive homeland battle will shock America into compromise. He believes mass casualties will force Washington to soften terms, believing sacrifice can still purchase sovereignty. Admiral Yonai Mitsumasa, quieter, heavier with realism, counters that there is nothing left to shock America with. He speaks of empty fuel tanks, shattered fleets, pilots trained in weeks, not years, cities erased in single nights. Every delay, he warns, costs tens of thousands of civilians, women and children whose deaths by nothing. The word chosen publicly is mokusatsu, deliberate silence, an ambiguous rejection that allows hope without commitment. To the outside world, it reads as defiance. To those inside the room, it feels like postponing an execution. No one in the chamber believes America will stop now, but no one dares be first to bend. Meanwhile, invasion preparations continue relentlessly. Beaches surveyed, civilians trained, school children taught how to die properly. Japan is no longer planning victory, it is planning impact. How much blood must spill before mercy appears? As night falls on 26th of July 1945, Hirohito remains distant from the council, listening, weighing. Haunted by futures he alone can authorize. The silence stretches, the deadline ticks forward, and somewhere in the Pacific, something far more terrible is already in motion. 29 July 1945, deep within Tokyo, Japan, Asia, the atmosphere shifts, subtle yet unmistakable, as reports arrive that cannot be ignored. American bombers now fly almost unchallenged, their engines no longer symbols of threat, but of certainty day after day, night after night. Japan's air defenses are exhausted, pilots scarce, fuel nearly gone, and every warning siren feels like a funeral bell arriving early. In a quiet meeting room, Admiral Toyoda Soemu, chief of the Naval General Staff, studies fresh intelligence with hollow eyes. The once proud Imperial Navy exists now mostly on paper. Its ships sunk, its harbors exposed, its strategic value reduced to memory. He speaks carefully, choosing words that will not shatter pride, yet cannot hide reality, saying the sea no longer belongs to Japan. Civilian ministers grow uneasy, their conversations shifting from victory to survival, from conquest to legacy. They speak of cities already burned, of rice shortages, of children evacuated into mountains, learning hunger before adulthood. For the first time, the question is not how to fight, but what remains worth saving. Behind closed doors, whispers circulate about a new American weapon, something singular, something decisive, though details remain vague. Some dismiss it as psychological warfare, others sense urgency in Washington's tone, a confidence that feels unnatural. No one knows the shape of this threat, but all feel its shadow growing longer by the hour. On this same day, 20 July 1945, Emperor Hirohito requests further briefings, quietly, personally, without ceremony. He listens as casualty projections are read aloud. Millions dead if invasion comes. Tokyo itself a battlefield. The throne surrounded by ruins. For a man raised to embody the nation, the realization is unbearable, that loyalty may demand Japan's destruction. Outside the palace, life continues in fragments. Street vendors operate among rubble. Children play beside burned foundations. They do not know the words spoken in council chambers, yet they will pay the price for every delay. Japan stands balanced between two catastrophes: invasion from the sea or something far worse from the sky. As 29th July 1945 fades into night, decision still does not come, only silence thick with consequence. What Japanese leaders say next will no longer be private opinion, but destiny itself spoken into history. Is 6 August 1945. Morning breaks over Hiroshima, Japan, Asia, clear skies above a city that believes it will survive another day. At 8:15 a.m., without warning, a single American bomber releases a weapon no Japanese leader has ever truly imagined. In one blinding instant, light replaces shadow, heat replaces air, and a city becomes history. Hours later, fragments of information reach Tokyo. Japan, Asia, confused reports, broken signals, impossible claims. A whole city, they say, erased by one bomb. Communications gone, survivors burned, doctors vaporized, reality refusing to make sense. Many dismiss it as exaggeration, believing no single weapon could do what thousands of bombs could not. At the Imperial Palace, emergency briefings begin. Voices tense, maps useless, silence filling the gaps between words. Scientists speak carefully, describing a new type of explosive, one powered by atomic fission, a force beyond conventional warfare. The room grows colder as understanding forms, not of damage alone, but of finality. War Minister Anami Korechika listens, jaw clenched, still searching for resolve within catastrophe. He argues that one bomb does not end a war, that invasion remains America's true test, that endurance is still possible. Others no longer meet his eyes, their certainty burned away with Hiroshima. Foreign Minister Togo Shigenori understands immediately what this means, diplomatically, strategically, morally. If America possesses more than one such weapon, Resistance is no longer sacrifice. It is suicide without symbolism. He presses for immediate reconsideration of surrender, warning that delay invites national extinction. Emperor Hirohito receives a private report that afternoon, delivered with trembling hands and lowered eyes. He asks few questions, but his silence carries a gravity no one in the room can escape. For the first time, the war is no longer theoretical, no longer distant, it is apocalyptic. Beyond Tokyo, the Japanese people do not yet know the word atomic, but they feel its consequence. Trains halt, rumors spread, fear travels faster than facts, and hope quietly begins to collapse. Japan's leaders now face a reality no doctrine prepared them for, a future where invasion is no longer the worst outcome. As night falls on 6th August 1945, Hiroshima burns, the councils argue, and the meaning of resistance changes forever. Yet even now decision hesitates, trapped between honor, fear, and the weight of an emperor's voice not yet spoken. In August 1945 in Tokyo, Japan, Asia, the War Council gathers again. Exhaustion etched into every face, sleep replaced by dread. Before Hiroshima can even be fully understood, another shock arrives, delivered not by bombers, but by diplomats and soldiers moving west. The Soviet Union, once a fragile hope for mediation, has declared war, shattering Japan's last diplomatic illusion. Reports confirm Soviet armies crossing into Manchuria, Korea, Sakhalin, overwhelming Japanese positions with speed and brutality. The strategy of fighting America while negotiating through Moscow collapses instantly, leaving Japan surrounded, isolated, and exposed. For many leaders, this is the true end, the moment when no path remains unblocked. Foreign Minister Togo Shigenori speaks urgently, his voice strained but precise, stating that continuation of war now invites national dismemberment. He warns that Soviet occupation threatens the emperor system itself, something even unconditional surrender to America might preserve. This argument cuts deeper than casualty numbers, striking at the soul of the state. War Minister Anami Korechika struggles visibly, torn between loyalty and reality, pride and annihilation. He admits the situation is grave, yet insists that surrender without one final stand dishonors the fallen and the living alike. His words no longer rally, they echo, fading in a room already moving on. That same night, 8th of August 1945, Emperor Hirohito requests an imperial conference, an extraordinary act revealing the crisis depth. Never before has the emperor stepped so directly into strategic decision, his voice traditionally distant, symbolic, untouchable. Now the symbol must become human. As dawn approaches, rumors spread of another atomic attack imminent, scientists warning that Hiroshima was not unique. Every delay risks another city erased, another generation scarred beyond memory. Japan is no longer choosing between victory and defeat, but between surrender and oblivion. The council prepares to meet again, knowing this time words may end a war or doom a nation. Outside, the population sleeps uneasily, unaware that history is about to turn on a single voice. As 8th August 1945 slips into night, the emperor's decision looms, heavy, inevitable, and final. What he says next will redefine honor, survival, and the meaning of defeat itself. Noon, August 1945, dawn settles over Tokyo, Japan, Asia, as the imperial conference begins in a sealed chamber guarded, silent, tense. 6 men sit around the table, their faces hollow, their loyalties divided, their words burdened by the fate of millions. Outside these walls, Japan waits, unknowingly balanced between survival and erasure. Before consensus can form, another report arrives. Fragmented, frantic, impossible to ignore. A second atomic bomb has fallen, this time on Nagasaki, Japan, Asia, turning another city into smoke and shadow. Any remaining doubt dissolves, replaced by a cold understanding that America's power is not singular, but repeatable. The room fractures instantly, arguments sharpened by panic and disbelief. General Umezu Yoshijiro insists that even now, Japan must demand conditions. That surrender without guarantees is unacceptable. Others stare downward, Knowing conditions mean nothing to a nation that can erase cities at will. Then something unprecedented occurs. Emperor Hirohito speaks softly, deliberately, his voice steady despite the collapse surrounding him. He says the war must end, that to continue would mean the extinction of the Japanese people, and that endurance has reached its limit. The room freezes, history pausing as tradition shatters. Never before has the emperor broken a deadlock. Never before has his personal judgment overruled military doctrine. In that moment, resistance ends not by defeat in battle, but by imperial will. War Minister Anami Korichika bows his head, his hands trembling, loyalty tearing him apart from the inside. He accepts the decision outwardly, even as his conscience fractures under centuries of warrior code. The war is over in principle, though not yet in practice. Orders are drafted, messages prepared, surrender terms debated down to phrasing and symbolism. The fate of the emperor becomes the final concern, the last shield protecting national identity from total collapse. America's response will determine whether surrender means survival or humiliation beyond repair. As night falls on 9 August 1945, fires burn in Nagasaki and silence fills Tokyo's halls. The decision has been made, but the danger is not yet past. Enemies still fly, radicals still plot, and peace remains fragile. Japan has spoken its answer in private, but the world has not yet heard it. The final step now lies ahead, a voice to be broadcast, a nation to be told the unthinkable. 14 August 1945, evening settles over Tokyo, Japan, Asia, heavy with humidity, tension, and the sound of distant aircraft. Inside the imperial palace, Emperor Hirohito prepares to do what no Japanese ruler has ever done before. Speak directly to his people. His voice, long considered divine, must now carry surrender, survival, and sorrow in equal measure. Technicians move carefully, setting microphones, testing fragile recording equipment, knowing a single mistake could change history. Outside the palace walls, factions within the military stir, unwilling to accept an end written in humiliation. Young officers whisper of honor, of coups, of seizing the recording before it can be broadcast. In a quiet room, Hirohito reads the surrender text aloud, practicing unfamiliar phrasing, struggling with words never meant to be spoken by an emperor. He does not say defeat, he does not say surrender. He speaks of enduring the unendurable, of protecting future generations from annihilation. Each sentence is measured, deliberate, heavy with centuries of tradition breaking apart. As night deepens on 14th August 1945, armed officers move through palace corridors, searching for the recording. This moment becomes known later as the Kyujo incident, a final, desperate attempt to keep the war alive through silence. Shots echo, tempers flare, loyalties fracture, and the empire trembles from within. Senior commanders intervene, confronting the rebels, reminding them that loyalty to the emperor means obedience, not defiance. Gradually, resistance collapses. The recording is hidden, protected, preserved through the night. Japan survives its final internal battle without bloodshed, by a narrow margin of restraint. War Minister Anami Korichika, alone with his thoughts, writes a brief farewell. His decision shaped by loyalty he cannot abandon. Before dawn, he takes his own life, accepting responsibility and closing the chapter of warrior resistance. His death becomes a symbol of the old Japan yielding to an unbearable new reality. As morning approaches, the recording remains intact, ready to be broadcast across the nation. The words have been spoken, the decision made, the risk endured, and now only revelation remains. Japan stands on the edge of a new identity, waiting to hear the emperor's voice for the first time. The sun rises on 15th August 1945, and with it comes the moment that will redefine history. 15 August 1945, at noon in Tokyo, Japan, Asia, radios crackle to life across the nation, summoning a people conditioned to listen but never to hear. For the first time in history, the voice of Emperor Hirohito flows through speakers in homes, factories, hospitals, and ruins. It is calm, formal, distant, yet weighted with grief that no translation can soften. Many listeners struggle to understand the classical language, the unfamiliar tone, the absence of direct words like surrender or defeat. But meaning emerges between the pauses, between the phrases, as realization spreads from room to room, street to street. The war is over, not with victory, but with survival. In military barracks, soldiers sit frozen, rifles resting uselessly against walls. Decades of conditioning unraveling in minutes. Some weep openly, others stare forward, unable to reconcile obedience with loss. Across the countryside, civilians bow instinctively toward radios, tears falling onto tatami mats and scorched floors alike. The emperor speaks of a new and most cruel bomb, of the need to save future generations, of accepting the unacceptable for peace. He frames surrender not as weakness, but as responsibility, shifting honor from dying to preserving life. For a nation raised on sacrifice, this reframing cuts deep, yet offers escape from annihilation. In Tokyo, Japan, Asia, government officials listen in silence, knowing their words and arguments have ended history's bloodiest chapter. Occupation now looms. Foreign soldiers will walk Japanese streets. Flags will change. Authority will be redefined. The empire remains, but it is transformed, stripped of myth, forced into humanity. Beyond Japan, Allied forces receive confirmation, disbelief giving way to relief, grief and exhaustion. Years of brutal island warfare, firebombing, and sacrifice end not with a final charge, but with a broadcast. The Pacific War closes without triumph, only survival and scars. As radios fall silent, Japan's leaders understand their words will be judged for generations. Some will be condemned, others pitied, all bound forever to this moment. What they said when invasion became inevitable has now shaped peace as much as war. Yet one final act remains, not of words but of ceremony. Surrender made visible to the world. The war has ended in voice, but not yet on paper. September 1945. Morning light reflects off the steel decks of the USS Missouri, anchored in Tokyo Bay, Japan, Asia. The sea is calm, almost indifferent, as representatives of a shattered empire prepare to formalize what words have already ended. This is not a battlefield, but the final stage of surrender. Precise, symbolic, irreversible. Japanese delegates arrive quietly, dressed in formal attire, their movements measured, their expressions unreadable. Foreign Minister Shigemitsu Mamoru, walking with a cane, carries the weight of humiliation and responsibility with each step. Beside him, General Umezu Yoshijiro represents a military that once promised victory and delivered ruin. Across the deck, Allied commanders wait, composed, restrained, aware that history is watching every gesture. General Douglas MacArthur stands apart, Supreme Commander of the Allied powers, architect of occupation and reconstruction. He understands this moment is not about vengeance, but closure, stability, and preventing another war. As documents are placed on the table, silence settles, broken only by the sound of pen on paper. Each signature is deliberate, slow, final, ink sealing the end of imperial ambition. No speeches follow, no celebration erupts. Dignity is maintained on both sides of defeat and victory. When the Japanese delegation bows and withdraws, the war officially ends. Not with cheers, but with exhalation. Years of brutality conclude in a few measured minutes, aboard a battleship that never fired a shot in anger. History often ends not with explosions, but with quiet acknowledgement of reality. Back in Tokyo, Japan, Asia, news spreads quickly, confirming what radios announced weeks earlier. For Japanese leaders, there is no relief, only responsibility, rebuilding and reckoning. The words spoken in secret councils now echo publicly as consequences take form. Occupation begins immediately. Reforms planned, power structures dismantled, a new Japan imagined from the ruins. The emperor remains, transformed from divine symbol to constitutional figure, a compromise that preserves continuity amid collapse. It is the final result of decisions made when invasion seemed inevitable. As the sun sets on September 1945, the Pacific War closes its last chapter. Yet history does not rest, it turns forward, shaped by the choices, silences, and courage of those final days. 3 September 1945, the day after surrender. Dawn rises over Tokyo, Japan, Asia, revealing a city no longer at war, yet not at peace. Smoke still lingers above ruins, soldiers still stand guard, and the future arrives quietly, without celebration or certainty. For Japan's leaders, the moment of decision has passed, but its consequences now begin to unfold. Inside government offices stripped of wartime banners, former architects of resistance face a new reality. Some prepare for trials, others for reform, all aware that history will judge every word they spoke in those final weeks. What they said when invasion became inevitable will now define them more than what they fought for. Emperor Hirohito resumes his role in public life. Transformed, humanized, no longer distant or divine. He visits destroyed cities, speaks to survivors, stands among ruins that once existed only in reports. His earlier decision now becomes visible leadership, a bridge between past destruction and future reconstruction. Across Japan, demobilization begins, weapons surrendered, uniforms folded away, indoctrination slowly replaced by exhaustion. Former soldiers return home to villages that barely recognize them, carrying silence instead of victory. The culture of death yields painfully to the necessity of life. American occupation authorities move carefully, rewriting laws, reshaping institutions, dismantling militarism without erasing identity. Japanese leaders cooperate, some reluctantly, some with resolve, understanding that resistance now would destroy what little remains. The war has ended, but responsibility continues. For the Japanese people, memory becomes the final battlefield. Hiroshima and Nagasaki, firebombed cities, lost sons, shattered myths. All demand meaning, not denial. What leaders once debated in private rooms now lives in classrooms, monuments, and collective conscience. This story is not simply about surrender, or bombs or invasion plans never realized. It is about language spoken under pressure, choices made when options collapse, and courage found in restraint. Japan did not fall because it was weak. It survived because at the final moment, it chose life over annihilation. As history closes this chapter, one truth remains unmistakable. The words spoken when invasion became inevitable did not end Japan, they saved it.